It was recently reported that the outgoing alderman in Ward 4, Jacques Archambault, was accused by his opponent, Yvon Simoneau, of refusing to speak English to his constituents in Clarence, Rockland, Ontario. Yes, it was said that at a meeting convened by Mr. Archambault on April 3rd regarding issues for Ward 4 in Clarence, Rockland, Ontario, a citizen asked for answers to his questions in English. Mr. Archambault nevertheless refused to comply, citing it was an act of provocation. An act of provocation? Okay, then what do you call this?
Mr. Speaker, enough is enough. 75% of our questions are put in French and answered in English. We know that the parliamentary secretary can speak French. He should either speak French or they should find someone else to do it.
Shouldn't this be considered an even more egregious act of provocation, considering it is in the federal parliament? After all, if this was really about bilingualism, the choice to use either English or French in the parliament, then shouldn't the member have the right to respond in whatever language they choose, and or in the language they feel the most comfortable with, and not be badgered in this way? Mr. Archambault is quoted as justifying his remark by saying, "There's no law that requires me to speak to you in English." Now, considering we're talking about a small town in eastern Ontario, a province that is overwhelmingly English with some small pockets where the French have a slight majority, the contempt and disrespect for the English shown by Mr. Archambault is totally unacceptable. I have a feeling that even though it would have been justified and correct for the honourable member Mr. Paul Calandra to respond the same way to Nicole Turmel, telling her there was no law that requires him to reply to her and her cronies in French, the outcry from the French would have made top national news in Canada. FYI, okay, just a note, Ontario is not Quebec. Perhaps it's time to make this clear. English is the majority language in Ontario and it deserves respect in that capacity. This is not more of a demand or less of a demand than what the French expect or demand in the province of Quebec, where the French is the majority, even though the reality is that Quebec is just a province inside the country of Canada. And in Quebec, even the small English-dominated parts of that province are expected to respect the idea that French is dominant.
There has to be a common language in a country, and so it's French or English. Well, I think that when you're 82% of the population, the majority wants it to be French.
Now, considering the French want this respect for the French language in the province where they are the majority, how can they not understand the idea of respecting the English language in the English-dominant parts of the rest of Canada? This certainly sounds like a case of what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine too. And that is no longer acceptable.